So what do you see in Poway's future? I mean, can you
Right.
kind of see some things coming?
Right. I think that's a really interesting question. I think that oftentimes a lot of people kind of feel like Poway is this kind of just stable, sleepy place, right? Especially if you're, and I get it, right? You're a busy parent. You're trying to raise your kids. You're trying to, you get your job. You come back. You're trying to spend time with your spouse and your family. Paying attention to all the things that are going on is actually kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
And so as long as, I think people can always talk about the roads being smooth and, as long as there's not an apartment building going up right next door to your backyard, you're sort of happy with, how things are going for the most part. But I don't think people realize like how much change is taking place and kind of we're in this sort of point now where how it can't just be stable. It's not even stable is not the right word. It can't be stagnant, right? The pressure to build housing, right, of all types, is very strong. And like I was saying earlier, there's a need for it. And if we're concerned about where our kids, where our firefighters and police officers and the people who work at the grocery stores and service are going to live, we need to find ways to make that housing happen, right? Which means development. So that's all going to happen whether people like it or not. The question is, how does that happen?
Right.
And so, what I see in store for Poway, it can go in one of two directions, right? It can either, a city council that doesn't push back and require developers to do the work to figure out how to make their projects fit in with what a vision, a unified vision of Poway should be. If the city council is not that, you're going to have kind of this hodgepodge of random stuff, and it's not going to feel great. And you're going to try to walk down Poway Road. It's not going to be walkable at all, ever. And that vision is just never going to be achieved, right? If you have a city council that does kind of push on that, right? Not a city council that's completely opposed to all development, but just says, hey, hold on a second. Like, why are we asking for this conditional use permit again? Or, why are we giving you this and what are we getting in return? Or why are our in lieu fees for, why are we allowing developers to get out of building affordable housing for $500 a unit when next door in the city of San Diego, it can end up amounting to $15,000 to $19,000 per unit, right? Mm-hmm. Which is money that should be coming back to the city. Like, if we have city council members who just are questioning that, rather than just saying, yeah, it's fine. That's money in developers' pockets. Mm-hmm. We can actually, we'll see one of two things happen, right? We can actually see a unified vision for Poway that, like I was saying earlier, like the Midland Road, model that kind of looks cool, that people enjoy being in and spending time in and taking their family to on a Saturday and walking around shops and having a beer at Hop Stop or whatever, right? And then going to, the park. If we want that, we got to have city council members that actually push back. And so we'll see what happens.
See, I've always contended Poway has an identity crisis because we like to think we're the city in the country, and that applied many decades ago. Yeah. But we're like a suburban community now, and we're building radically. Yeah. So it's like it doesn't match. Reality and the motto don't match. And I think that's another part of maybe the disconnection people are feeling.
It might be for sure. I mean, no doubt there are people who have lived in Poway a very long time who move here, and they loved the horse stables and, love seeing horses go down Espola and Twin Peaks and love the open space. And there are people who've moved here recently, right? They moved into these new developments that we're building that moved in, not necessarily for that country vibe, but for the school district, for some of the new housing, for, whatever it is, right? The parks or, the kind of just the fact that they could have a nice, quiet, safe community to raise their family in. And that, those two different things, I think it's unfortunate that sometimes they're sort of in contrast and even sometimes kind of played off each other by, whatever it is, right? People, in the community who want to try to create this one or the other dichotomy. You can find ways to satisfy both, I mean, unless you're somebody who is just like, I liked it the way it looked in 1980 and I'm not going to accept anything else. Right. Which, well, I'm sorry, but that's not going to exist anymore.
Right.
That's the nature of all cities that are growing and changing. Right. I mean, if your city didn't grow and change, it becomes stagnant. I mean, it would, you wouldn't have businesses anymore that were serving you. People would move out. But can you find a way not to change the city? Can you find a way not to do that sort of starts to devalue people's investments, right? In their property? Can you do that in a way that creates pride, right? Like people go, oh, that's a really cool thing that we're building here. I love that. I can't wait to take my kids down there. And to me, that's the question, right? If you can find those right projects, the enthusiasm, you'll start to see people kind of marry those two things, the city and the country. That's my hope, at least.
I remember John Mullins said that Poway Road is the city part of the city and the country. What do you think of that?
I think that's true to a lot of extent, right? I think there was a deliberate effort by city planners, early on, to say, okay, like this part of Poway is going to be very large rural homes. This part of Poway is going to be just where the businesses are, right? We're going to line them all up and put them in the same area. For better or for worse. I mean, it's kind of an old school suburban development model that we're starting to see has problems as cities grow, because it does lead to traffic, right? I mean, if I want to go get a jug of milk because I'm running low, I live in North Poway. I got to go drive 10 minutes in either direction, and so that creates traffic, that creates a load on the roads, environmental problems, right? If you had a city that was planned out in a way where things were, there was a place for me to go get a jug of milk. It didn't require getting in my car and driving. You'd have a more of a neighborhood community feel, right? You might even run into people on my way down to the shop to grab some milk. Might even chat with the store owner a bit, right? I mean, and so I think these are sort of in my mind, my interpretation, kind of that smaller town country feel that could help create some enthusiasm around the development in Poway if we were to see more things like that, rather than let's put in another big box store in one concentrated area downtown, right?
It's interesting because you go to a bigger city and there's like a neighborhood grocery store, which is difficult in Poway.
Yeah,
I mean, even for us, like the closest grocery store is Sprouts, and that's that's probably be like a 20-minute walk. It's doable, but late at night in the dark, and it's tough. The vision, though, I think for the Poway Road specific plan, the original thought was that it was going to be walkable.
Yeah,
I remember way back, they were thinking of having it as diagonal parking, kind of like Midland Road along Poway Road, where there was a lot like a downtown El Cajon, with outdoor seating and cafes and that sort of thing. And that kind of went out the wayside. But we really haven't seen what kind of local businesses are going to be embedded in those new developments yet, have we?
I don't think so. I mean, I know there's, like a realtor has set up shop or maybe a mortgage broker or something like that has set up shop in one of them. But yeah, we haven't seen kind of that vision. And part of that, I think, is, the cornerstone of that whole area is currently kind of a gaping hole closed off, on Poway Road there because the project fell through when they hit groundwater and, the company went bankrupt. That's the Commons project down there in Poway Road that was supposed to be sort of that.
No, it was the Outpost.
Oh, it was the Outpost. I'm sorry. Thank you. Not Commons. You're right. Outpost.
Yeah, but they're building there again. There's new construction going on, right?
That's right. I think there is a company that has started doing something there. I don't know what the result's going to be yet. I haven't looked into it deeply, but yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed that we see that change, right?